Okay. Hello, Dr. Attri. How are you?
I'm doing great, Douglas. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you for coming on the show. I appreciate it. And I think thank you again for being up at midnight your time because you are in Singapore. Is that correct?
That's correct. It's midnight, but I'm really glad to talk to you.
Well, it's funny. You're the second guest I've had on the show from Singapore. I
Oh,
had
that's great.
about 6 months ago, I had a singer, songwriter, guitar player, young guy, about 17, 18 years
Hmm.
old, was living in Singapore, and he came on the show and featured one of his songs. Very happy to
That's
have you on as well. So I guess
my pleasure.
we're going to be talking about speed today. Speed seems to be the word du jour.
Ye- that's correct.
Now, this type of speed, we're referring to what? To learning speed? Reading speed? What kind of speed are we talking about?
Okay, good question. So the speed we are talking about is actually fundamentally the speed of learning. But learning itself is not enough. What we're talking about is how we bring ourselves and our employees, our team members, our leader, and our manager to a stage where they can produce first time right performance. And their performance become fluid, their performance become consistent. How soon we can bring that point in time, how we can accelerate that. We're talking about that speed.
Okay, so we're not talking about just people working faster.
Yeah, I think the most most common notion for speed is that working fast. And what I realize in my research is that creates a kind of mad rush. Most of the time, leader would ask for a very aggressive timelines on the projects, and what it creates is it gives half-cooked learning to employees. And what we get ultimately is a possibly a quality which is not of the standard, but then they need to resend it back for rework. So ultimately, it takes longer time to produce the product or service to the customer satisfaction. So we are not talking about creating that kind of mad rush. We're talking about how you can achieve the point of smooth performance where they don't have to rework anymore.
Can you give us an example of? I know you have a book that
Yeah,
called Speed Matters,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
That's your
yeah.
latest book.
Yeah, yeah. So certainly, certainly. So I'm going to give you an example of the checkout clerks. I'm pretty sure that you might have gone into some bigger stores like Walmart. So the checkout clerk you see there, you will notice that while they are talking to you, you don't even realize when they have completed the transaction. At times, they don't even bother to look at the barcode. They are so proficient, they make no error. But the transaction per customer is so fast. Still, they don't come across in any kind of mad rush. And you walk out pretty pleased with the experience. So, we are talking about bringing our employees, managers, or leaders to that level of consistency, that level of reliability, repeatable mastery, where they can deliver outcome first time right. And what you get is better customer satisfaction, faster resolution of problem, a perfect sales pitch. Once employees reach that stage, what happens is that they automatically appear fast, but they don't look like in a mad rush. So that's the kind of speed we are talking about here, Douglas.
So, what would be the first thing you do? You go into a company, and would you give a speech, or would you immediately start to work with individuals or in small groups? How do you do it?
What I realize is that the speed is a kind of culture. You need to induct the culture. You need to produce the whole ecosystem. So it needs to come top down. So first, the leaders, the executives, they need to be educated. So I typically work top down. I start with the education, with the awareness, because most of the time our leaders are not really educated about what's going on. How do I bring the science of speed in my setting in my organization? So I start educating them that okay, let's look at how you operate your business. Let's look at how do you invest on your employees. Let's look at how do you measure speed. Do you even have an instrument to measure speed? And if you have the instrument, how do you baseline it? But how do you know that you are going slower than the market or faster? More chances are you're going to be going slow. So we start with that kind of analysis to begin with the upper leadership.
And then you would work your way down. You said you go from the top to the bottom, right?
Yeah. So the ultimate purpose is that the ground level staff, the ground level employees, they are the one who need speed because they are the face of the company. They are the one who interact with the customer on daily basis. They are the one who create solutions, product, and everything that happens for business. So the whole idea is that if we are able to bring our employee up to speed in a shorter time, result what we get is a competitive speed which your competitors cannot match because they will take some time to really catch up with you. By that time you will be already ahead of market. So the idea is, how do we bring the leadership and their managers and the direct line managers onto the same page, that how we gonna change the equation for the ground level staff so that they go to the proficiency level faster.
How did you arrive at this concept? You were doing other things in your life, I'm sure, before you got to
Yeah,
this point.
yeah. So my story is a little bit grounded in my childhood. Um, when I was a kid, I lost my ability to walk. I got permanent disability, so I can't really walk. So that was, I think, the trigger point where I got a little bit obsessed with speed. So I wanted to, stay ahead in something. I wanted to do something where I'm the faster. So my best bet was to understand that how we learn the things, how do we perform the things. And my X factor at that point of time was to be able to learn things faster. And that's how I got into this entire field of learning. So I went on with my engineering. I became a technology scientist. But after 10 years there, I figured out that, I should be in a learning field. I should be in a field where I work with people to help them speed up their learning and performance. And that's where I went on with my two doctorate. I did pretty intensive research for about 10 years. I worked with some of the best organization in the world. And my basic question to them was that how do you bring speed in your own setting? How do you make sure that your employees are getting developed faster? So there are both aspects of this one. For leaders, it is how they develop their leaders. But then for leaders themselves, how do you develop yourself at a faster rate? So my whole research was combination of these two things, and that's how this whole subject of science of speed evolved. That's what I'm putting in the books now. So that's fundamentally how I came about this concept.
Can I ask you what happened in your childhood that you lost the ability to walk? Was it polio?
Yeah, it was polio. I was 6 months old when it occurred, and one leg got paralyzed. And from that point onward, I lost my ability to walk. And in fact, most of the kids walk at the age of 1 year. I don't even know what walking means because I lost it long before and that age came. So that's
Oh.
where, kind of I was kind of glued to a chair, tied up with very, very low mobility. So then I leveraged whatever was available to me. And my biggest bet was how to learn fast.
Did you have to wear the heavy metal braces on your legs?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
In fact, my evolution has been gone to stages. So when I was kid, I think up to about 5 year of age, I was only able to crawl on the floor. But then I learned to lift my leg with my hands and start walking. But that wasn't really easy. So slowly, then they put me on prosthetics, the leg braces, what they call calipers, and it was kind of steel rods with a lot of strap with heavy boots. So, but it was very difficult because its weight itself was about 20 kg, maybe 25 kg, more than my own weight. So eventually, I trained myself to walk with crutches, and that's my current mode of movement.
It's interesting because there's some kind of a synchronicity in the world. 2 weeks ago, I had Shane Salk on the show, whose grandfather was Dr. Jonas Salk, who developed the polio vaccine.
Oh,
Very famous doctor. He's a world
yeah.
famous doctor. And I
Mhm.
had his grandson on. We didn't talk about polio, but when I found out that he was the grandson of Dr. Salk, I thought, oh, wow. And so now you come on, and it's just, I don't know, there's some sort of a synchronicity going on here. I think it's positive, though. It's good. I think that's great when it happens.
Yeah, certainly.
You went to school, you've got two doctorates, And I saw in your bio that you have over 100 international educational credentials. You must have had to buy a bigger house at that point to put up all of your certificates.
No, not really, not really. It's just a few extra files to keep my certificates and credentials. So I still live in a very small house. But that came, during the course of that time because I wanted to stretch my own limit. My whole curiosity was that can I learn faster? And when I started reading the books, I didn't find any book that can teach me how to learn faster. And that's a kind of challenge for me. And I say, okay, you know what? This is the challenge. Perhaps this is my X factor. So that's where I kind of started accumulating credential over credential. But I loved learning, and it automatically came in my way.
So you're still doing your, I'm not sure what I should call it, uh, presentations, talks? You go to the companies and do that?
Yeah, yeah. I'm mostly
Consulting?
engaged in three things. Yeah, mostly these days I kind of focus more on professional speaking. Most of the time I get invited in conferences or executive events where I talk to leaders, I present them the educational sessions, and I kind of bring them to the next level of future where exactly the workforce and their own leadership should be going. But I also conduct kind of intensive coaching because this is a new field, so people need a lot of hand holding and some of the specialized training courses as well.
So I guess your titles would be, aside from doctor, you would be consultant, speaker, author.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, I mostly call myself as performance scientist, and that's the main thing which I do because consulting is a kind of little bit of kind of, I would say, it lost its luster because today's business, what they really need is they don't need advice. They need real solutions, and the real solution comes out of research, very intense research. So I do use the performance science to educate and guide people that how they can progress faster. So I call myself a performance scientist. That's one of the hat I wear. But in addition to that one, I am also a training thought leader. I work for a Fortune 500 company. That's a US based corporation where I manage one of the top 10 training centers in the world. It's also a Hall of Fame training organization, which I manage.
Okay, and that's in Singapore you do that,
That's
yeah?
right. That's right.
Oh, that's great. So according to your bio, you've written 20 books, is that correct?
That's correct.
What are some of your other books about? Are they all the same theme or different things?
Not really. In fact, probably half of those books are pertaining to the concept of speed, where I talk about accelerating leadership, learning, training, and a lot of skill acquisition. So those are more research-based and practitioner-based, meant for business leader and organization leader. But that's more of a kind of coming from a business standpoint. But I also wrote books from a different aspect. My belief is that as a human we are multi-dimensional personality. We have a lot of aspect of experience. So I wrote books on poetry. I have written books which contains paintings and portraits as well. So it's a lot variety of books I have written, but my major chunk is certainly business related.
Oh, well, that's very well rounded. So you've got the left and the right brain both covered there. Yeah.
That's right, Douglas. I mean, that's why when I go to organizations and when I interact with people, I keep using this phrase, art and science of excellence, because I think as a human being, we cannot differentiate. Art and science both are logical brain as well as our emotional side. Both need to work together to give the personality what we have. So I kind of work on both sides of. I'm a scientist. I just gotten a award for international artist from a New York-based international art magazine. So it was kind of pretty interesting that they say scientist who is artist as well. So I think I love that part of going multidimensional.
Oh, well, that's great. That makes you a very, like I said, a well rounded human being, which I think more of us need to be that. Sometimes a lot of us get too pigeonholed and focused in just one particular thing. And expanding the mind is always a great thing.
Yeah, that's right. I think you made the right observation. The time we are living right now is more career focused, more professional, and somehow people start using that as their identity. And I have been telling people that's not our complete identity. That's
No.
just a part of our identity. We got a lot of other things. We are father, we are son, we are spouses, we are friend. We have a lot of other roles we play in our life. So why not leverage those and build what we can build?
Well, Doctor, we have to wrap this up. We are out of time. Do you have a website you want to give out?
Yeah, my website is pretty simple, ramankatri.com. And that's where I put all my learning nuggets, videos, and other things audience can really go and learn how to speed up their own performance and learning.
Okay, great. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show. It was nice meeting you and nice talking to you. Best of luck.
Thank you so much, Douglas. It was my pleasure to be on your show. Thank you.